Today we're going to create a still life inspired by one of my favorite shows. This last week was a bit tumultuous and definitely had its peak highs and its low lows. We went through quite a bit of highs and lows in this past week. I was looking into my garden where I had the last of these winter roses that were still blooming. I know, it's weird. It's Southern California, so they apparently never go dormant. We'll talk about that in another video. And I also had these gorgeous spring blooms of paper whites blooming into my home. I was thinking to myself, I want to create something with these beautiful flowers. And every time it came to creating something, my mind just turned into mush. It was hard to focus on the image that I wanted to create, and I just wasn't getting any inspiration. One night, as I was on my rewatching of the Bridgerton show on Netflix, okay, fine, the third time rewatching it. I know, sue me. It's based on one of my favorite book ever, actually the favorite book series ever, which is from Julia Quinn. And I read this book about 15 years ago. Although when I read the book, the hero was actually one of my favorite characters. And the heroine, Daphne, who is one of the Bridgerton siblings, is not one of my favorite Bridgerton siblings. I would actually go more with Eloise. Yeah, I love Eloise. There were some issues I had with the book, which I actually realized a lot later than I had loved the book, but she was still not a character with whom I could identify. But I loved Simon. I absolutely loved that character. But when I saw the show, it put this completely different light on this character. I felt like she was a lot stronger and she came into herself. And that's the journey that we see from the first episode to the last, how she comes into herself as a woman in terms of her sexuality, in terms of her own power, and that was really empowering and powerful. Yes, there is a scene in the show and in the book that I have issues with, and I will always do. It deals with consent and it's not something that I agree with. If you have watched this show, let me know in the comments below who's your favorite character and what you think about it. But seeing her strength and resilience in the show gave me a spark and an inspiration for the still life. So today we're going to create a still life inspired by one of my favorite shows. This is my today's studio setup. The backdrop is a black backdrop, which I want so that the white flowers can stand out against it. I wanted the base to be a little different than what I have done in my previous still life videos. I wanted to have marble for a more luxurious feel. One, because Daphne comes from this family who is an affluent family in the Regency era. And two, I also wanted it to represent the show, which is quite luxurious and it's quite showy in terms of the sets and the beautiful, gorgeous costumes and the way everything is filmed. It just feels a lot more luxurious than what you're used to thinking when it comes to Regency time frame. It is also true because Regency time frame, whatever images we have in our mind come from, especially fashion, comes from fashion plates which are on this old aging paper, so we don't see colors in them, but obviously people used to wear beautiful colors, and I feel like the show has just upped its scale based on that. So that's why I wanted to choose marble as a base, but I don't have actual marble, so I have this marble top that I've created in one of my previous videos. I'll put the link up here. So I wanted to use that as a base. As you can see, the light is hitting it sideways, which is how I always like it because it creates more beautiful shadows. And this one is going to be a little more brightly lit than my previous still lifes because it's not all black, so I'm going to have to create shadows using different flags. I created this mood board for the shoot. I definitely wanted to include the rose in the shoot, and I wanted the color palette to be white, green, and black. I loved how the flowers looked in this dream sequence in between Simon and Daphne. I loved that silver and white gown, and especially her confidence as she walks down those stairs. I'm using this flower frog as a base, and then I am going to use a gaffer tape at the bottom of it just so that I can stick it and it doesn't move. The white rose for me was one of the most important pieces in the still life because I feel like it showed Daphne's journey into her own awakening as a woman. I feel like it was vital to the show, and so I also wanted it to be a centerpiece in the still life image. I wanted to leave the thorns on the rose for her slightly prickly character that we get to see during her initial interaction with Simon. Once I read Julia Quinn, I was in love with the genre, and The Duke and I was actually my first book from her, and I absolutely adored it. I loved how beautifully she had talked about family and the love they have for each other, the humor and the wit in the writing of scenes. I used to laugh out loud as I used to read these scenes. I'm using one of my old lamps to kind of hang the branch that I want coming in because I couldn't find a long enough branch that I could use in the image, and I wanted it to come kind of on top to encompass the whole image of the rose plant. So I had to kind of rig it up. I had to go back outside and get some more flowers because I felt like part of the frame was looking empty. And I also got my 5-in-1 reflector out because I wanted to create a dark shadow on this side of the image. So I am going to use a flag and start taking pictures now. I'm going to take the pictures on the Nikon D810. This was an unintended consequence, but I brought the flowers from outside again to add the extra ones in. And it's raining outside, so it has raindrops on some of the paper whites, which looks absolutely beautiful. And it kind of reminds me of the scene that is the last scene of the show, and where she's standing in the rain and talking to him about her love. I think it actually is perfect, and it kind of brings together the whole image for me. I took a few different plates as I didn't have enough paper whites and thought I might need to add them later. Here are the photos. After editing them in Lightroom, I took them into Photoshop to combine the different plates, and this is the final result. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell to be notified for all of my future videos. Thank you so much everyone for watching today and joining me here, and have an amazing, amazing day. Bye-bye.